Hey, and welcome to Confessions of Former Drama Queen. Just want to give a quick, big shout out to all the subscribers, followers, everyone that's commented and shared the blogs. It is much appreciated. I'm building up some really good relationships with people, and that's what I want to talk about. Relationships. When I told my son that I was doing this as a blog, because he's quite interested now, so he asked me what the theme was, and I said, oh, I'm doing it about relationships. And I had these two signs. He doesn't want you, and he's just not that into you. And my son said to me, to be honest, Mum, I haven't really seen you in any relationship drama. And then I mentioned one name, and he was like, yeah, man, you really lost the plot there. And it got me thinking about my relationship history, and I thought there's two relationships that I had where I turned into a mad, crazy black woman. And when I look at the circumstances surrounding both relationships, the first one, I'd just gotten divorced and a family member had died, and I was really vulnerable. I couldn't quite make sense of what was happening, really. So I was kind of vulnerable, and there was a lot of external stuff going on. So there was that. And then the second one was a straight rebound. I'd been in a long-term relationship and it wasn't going the way that I wanted it to go, and I ended it. And I didn't give myself any time to grieve. I literally went from there to there, or from there to there, whichever way. So I didn't give myself any time to grieve at all. And something happened in the second one, which I'll talk about in another blog. But both these relationships, when I look back at my behaviour, I behaved like a psychopath, if that's the word. Yeah, it is a word. I mean, if that is the word. But I behaved like a psychopath. In some ways, I don't want it to sound too like, oh my God, she's crazy. Probably to them I was. But some of my feelings were justified, but not my behaviour. And instead of trying to hold on to these guys, the only thing I should have been doing was giving thanks. Giving thanks to the Almighty that they weren't in my cipher anymore, because they didn't want me. And they really meant me no good. You know, they might have liked me, but they didn't want me. They didn't want the package. They might have liked my looks, my personality, my figure at the time, but they didn't want me, because if they had wanted me, then they wouldn't have behaved in the way in which they had behaved. And probably if I had wanted them, I wouldn't have been behaved. I think for me, it was a lot to do with pride and ego, and the fact that I thought, in particular, one relationship, I thought that I could change the guy when everyone was saying to me, why are you with him? I was like, no, he's not going to treat me like that. He did. And in the second one, I think it was more like a pride thing. It was definitely a pride thing. I didn't really want to admit that I'd made a mistake, or that I was even upset or hurt that my relationship hadn't worked out and it hadn't gone the way in which I'd wanted it to. And, I was being a little bit too immature to actually sit down and talk about the person. I thought it'd be easier to just get out, the grass is greener on the other side, and it was to my own detriment. So I realised that I had self-created some of those stuff. Was the cause and effect. And some of the stuff that I did, I can look back and think it was quite comical, but the reality was it was actually just embarrassing. I was embarrassing myself. I was embarrassing myself because my close cipher knew that I shouldn't have even been with them in the first place. And they were like, why are you wasting all this time and energy? And then I'd drive my friends up the wall, because then I'd get on the phone. And they were just like, oh my God. And then, there'd be this text war between us all. And then a couple of hours later, I'm in bed with the dude again. And my friends were getting annoyed. They were getting fed up with me, man, because they were like, Sarah, man, fix up, man. What's wrong with you? You're worth so much more. But at the time, for me, I think the crazy up, down roller coaster tendencies of the relationships. And I mean, one of them was just like, I don't even think it reached 3 months. And it was like this constant, this drama. I was thriving off of it. It was almost like, oh, is he going to call? Is he not going to call? That apprehension that you get sometimes when you're about to do something. It was kind of like that. And I was kind of thriving off this, because possibly my life wasn't going the way that I wanted it to. I didn't want to look at the deeper issues. These things were quick fixes and they were distractions, but they weren't bringing me any healing. So what did I do? I embarrassed myself a little bit more, I'm ashamed to say. Yeah, just sisters, just take my word of advice. Just let's not embarrass ourselves. Let's not beg and plead. And let's not cuss off these guys, because do you know what? The bottom line is we went there. We went there in the first place. So really and truly, we shouldn't have gone there in the first place. You know, let's take accountability that we made a mistake. The best thing you can do is say, you know what? Hands up, made a mistake. And that's pretty much all it is. You just made a poor relationship choice. It's better we get out before it pursues. And I know sisters that have been in this situation. Man don't want them. They're making babies. And then they're cursing them. Come on now. You got to take accountability and realise when a man doesn't want you, he doesn't want you. You cannot change him. And the thing is, we got to stop being dumping grounds. I realised that my self-esteem was in the toilet because he could cuss me off, I'd still sleep with him. He could lick me down, I'd still sleep with him. I know sisters that man will rob them, they'll still sleep with them. We're just giving away in hope. Come out of hope. Have a mass exodus from hope. Yeah, he's not going to change. What is the motivation to change if he's still going to get sex no matter what he does? Sleep with your brethren, get sex. Sleep with your sister, get sex. Sleep with your mother, get sex. Come on. He's not going to change. So the only thing is we change. We lift our standards. You know, don't be cussing him because he was a player from day, or he was a dog from day, or he was walkless from day, he was broke from day. You know, you can't now be turning around going, oh, he's broke, but you knew he was broke, or he's a cheater. Yeah, but he was cheating with you. What makes you think he's not going to cheat on you? Come on. The only thing you need to do when these men leave you or whatever is lift your hands and give thanks to the Almighty, the Creator, and say thank you. That's the only thing you need to do. That's the only thing you need to shout and say. You know, we got to become the kind of person that we want to date. I realised I was quite undateable. I had loads of issues. I was kind of immature in relationships, and I really needed to take a good stock of myself and value myself, respect myself. They cannot disrespect us unless we let them. Simple fact. A man cannot disrespect you unless you allow him to disrespect you. When he leaves, give thanks. He's become somebody else's problem. You are now free to live your life. You're free to follow your dreams. You're free to redesign your life. You're free to get creative. You're free. You know, the burden and the crying and the cussing and the drama and the toxicness of that relationship is over. You can breathe. You can be yourself. You don't have to worry anymore. You know, let's stop holding on to these relationships, and then we're getting impressed because guess what? He stayed at mine for 3 days. So, where is he for the other 2 days? You know, these men with their little go-round selves. You're at risk of STIs. You're at risk of pregnancy. Is that what you want for yourself? And then get on Facebook and curse? That's what I did. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. Especially when you wake up and you realise that, you know what, I just made a poor choice. And then you wake up from that and you realise, actually, not only did I make a poor choice, but I actually made a complete and utter twat of myself to the public. Confessions of a Drama Queen. Former drama queen. But yeah, so that's what it was for me. I had to recognise that the reason why I was in these relationships is because I hadn't dealt with my issues. I hadn't dealt with the fact that, you know, when I got divorced, I felt quite upset about the divorce process. The fact that I'd spent loads of money on a wedding and it was over. The fact that, you know, someone very close to me had died and our relationship wasn't that great, and all the emotions of grief. And these were all grief periods. You must go through the process of grief. Don't try and short circuit it. Go through the process. If you want some information about relationship grieving process, please do contact me and I can give you some references and some links as to where you can get some really good information. Until then, love yourself, value yourself. Do not have these men in your bed. Do not disrespect yourself and break your own heart. Until the next time, thank you for listening.